Okay, so for this problem, what I have is the tangent of u plus v. I'm sorry. Well, their angle they're asking us to identify is they want us to evaluate for the tangent of 13 pi over 12. So what I did is I broke up the angle 13 pi over 12 into two different angles that I know the values of, which is 3 pi over 4 or pi over 3. Or I'm sorry, I don't know the values, but I can take the tangent of those values. So therefore, we're going to want to now use the tangent of the addition formula, which would be u plus v. So that's going to equal tangent of u plus tangent of v divided by 1 minus tangent of u times tangent of v. So what we're simply going to do is, again, we got to figure out what are our values for 3 pi over 4 and pi over 3. So we have this value, 3 pi over 4, which is negative square root of 2, comma square root of 2 over 2. And then we have pi over 3, which is square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. All right, did I follow so far? Three pi over 4, pi over 3. All right, so now we're just going to simply plug them in. So the tangent of u, well, actually, let's write this in there. So if I was going to do the tangent of 3 pi over 4 plus pi over 3, that's going to be my u and my v. So by writing this in here, the tangent of 3 pi over 4 plus the tangent of pi over 3 divided by 1 minus the tangent of 3 pi over 4 times the tangent of pi over 3. Whew. Everybody see all that? Okay, now let's just plug in what our evaluation points are. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, the tangent, Nico, the sine and cosine was x in your y coordinate, right? But remember, tangent was your y coordinate over your x coordinate. So we need to look at this one, and if I take the tangent of 3 pi over 4, that's going to equal square root of 2 divided by 2 divided by negative square root of 2 divided by 2, which that ends up equaling negative 1. Then what about if we look at the tangent of pi over 3? So therefore, that's going to be 1/2 divided by the square root of 3 divided by 2. I wrote that wrong. I thought you guys were supposed to be correcting me. So I have 1/2 divided by the square root of 3 over 2. Therefore, so now those cancel out to just leave you with the square root of 3. Okay? So we have two answers that we can evaluate for our tangent. Negative 1, and we have the square root of 3. Huh? Just I put the wrong coordinate point, but I corrected it. So now we just plug in our answers. So the tangent of 3 pi over 4 is negative 1. The tangent of pi over 3 is the square root of 3 over 1 minus the square root of 3 pi, or tangent of 3 pi over 4, which is negative 1, times the tangent of pi over 3, or tangent of pi over 3, which is square root of 3. Okay, so now we simplify. Equals negative 1 plus the square root of 3 all over 1 plus the square root of 3. Now, the fun part about the tangents is we're going to want to simplify this a little bit further by rationalizing our denominator. So we don't want to have a binomial as our denominator and a radical in our denominator. So I multiply by 1 minus the square root of 3. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, when multiplying binomials, right, these are not a difference of two squares. So therefore, we need to make sure we multiply every single term. So negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 times square root of 3 is plus square root of 3. 1 times square root of 3 is going to be plus square root of 3. And square root of 3 times a negative square root of 3 is going to be a negative 3. Therefore, leaving me with a negative 4 plus 2 square root of 3 all over. Here, we have a difference of two squares. So 1 plus square root of 3 times 1 minus square root of 3 is going to give you 1 squared minus 3, which is going to equal a negative 2, right? Yes?
Why isn't the top one different square?
Because remember, your first two terms have to be the exact same number squared, right? And they have difference. It's close, but if that's a negative, that's why I cancel it out. So now I have difference two squares, which is 1 minus 3, which ends up giving you negative 2. Now, can I factor out a common term?
Negative.
I can factor out a negative 2. So my final answer, so when I factor out a negative 2, or actually not factor out a negative 2, I can actually just divide everything by a negative 2. And therefore, I'm just going to be left with now a positive 2 minus square root of 3.
What happened to the factoring?
You don't need, everything divides in, you can
okay.
just divide out your 2. I mean, you're factoring out, you're dividing by 2 in both terms. So negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2, and 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1. So you just divide everything by 2. Okay? Yes?